Well, I don't know how to get a microphone. I don't know anything about technology.
Well,
And if anyone watches this podcast very often, they'll know that we don't know what we're doing. So welcome back to another episode of Tell Me Where I'm Going Wrong, a podcast where two exes, I'm Sean and that's Josh. We talk about everything to do with life, pop culture, politics, pop music, you name it, we talk about it. How are you, Josh?
hi, Sean. Well, I object. I would say we don't know. We have some idea about what we're doing. We are veteran podcasters after all. This is episode
82.
What is this episode? 82? 83?
82.
So we are learning on the job. But I'm okay. As I was saying just before we started, I have a sinus infection, so you can all get out your tiny violins and play them for me. So I've dosed up on Lemsip. I've done like steroid injections up my nose, so I'm just going to power through.
We really always do have something to complain about, don't we?
Oh yeah, well, hello. I mean, we're of that age, Sue. And also, I'm hoping Dr. Theatre comes through. And so, do you want to explain about Dr. Theatre? Because I don't think we've talked about it on the pod, have we?
I'm sure we've mentioned Dr. Theatre
Have we?
before, but it's a friend of ours, Wendy, who is a TV presenter, and
She really is a veteran media personality, unlike us.
Yeah, veteran and a much more professional, to a much higher standard than we hold ourselves to. And Wendy was explaining to me once about when you don't feel like performing or doing the right thing, like by your contractual obligations, not that we have a contract, but when you can't fulfill what's expected of you, somehow the adrenaline kicks in and it gives you the sort of the power to overcome and to get through it and to like smash the job out of the park. And
so even if you're like dying, like literally like on the floor dying, the curtain call happens, you've got to be on stage.
Yeah. And she refers to that as Dr. Theatre because he sort of comes knocking on the door and gives you the whatever it is you need to get through. So we're relying on Dr. Theatre. Well, actually, we rely on Dr. Theatre to get us through most things in life, I think. But especially right now.
But yeah, Dr. Theatre, Lemsip, and whatever that Sudafed nasal steroid spray that I used as well. So I'm going to try not to like sniff right up against the microphone. I'll have to like back away a bit and,
Do you think that Dr. Theatre would be powerful enough if you weren't feeling 100% and you had to perform at the Super Bowl?
Oh, 100%. And I think there is a lot to be said for adrenaline. I think that adrenaline really does. But I don't really feel I don't want to be dismissive about the podcast, but because it's not live, because we're not recording it live, I don't feel a sense of adrenaline to record the podcast because I'm not talking to a live audience. If it was going out live, like if this was a radio show, I think I would feel that adrenaline rush. But because because it's not, I don't feel that. So,
but there is an element of Dr. Theatre and performance about it because we don't do multiple takes. We don't do any sort of editing out the bad parts. You get what you get.
In case our viewers and listeners hadn't realised that already, I think it's probably quite obvious. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I tried to do a cheeky segue then into talking about the Super Bowl. Did you watch the Super Bowl halftime performance by Bad Bunny?
I did, and I know we were talking about it in last week's episode. Excuse me. And it took me a few days to catch up because you know how busy I am. So I've got so many fingers and so many pies. But I did finally manage to watch it, and I found it very emotional. I don't know about you. What did you think?
It was very emotional. And similarly to you, I have a lot of things that I procrastinate over throughout the week. So it is hard to find time to watch these things with all the procrastination that we have to do. But yeah, it was highly emotional. Now, speaking as white people, non-Latino people, it obviously means a lot more to different people than it would to us who have that lived reality. But it was very emotional. When I watched it, I cried. It made me cry through several parts. of it.
Hmm.
What strikes you if you had to give sort of your like elevator pitch? You had 30 seconds with someone to explain to them why it was so impactful. What would you say?
I'd say because of what is happening in the US at the moment, like there is so much ugliness coming out of the US that we see in the media, so much ugliness in the White House and on the streets. I mean, I don't even really think that needs explaining. I don't think anyone would not know what I'm referring to. It was really beautiful and moving and touching to see a celebration of what the flip side of that is, what beauty there is in the United States. And although I don't go in for the whole patriotic stuff and, the waving of the flag or anything like that, I do think America is, or the United States of America is an incredible country. I think that it has an incredible story, and a huge, huge part of that story is, well, it's immigration. Like, it obviously, you can't talk about immigration to the United States without talking about Native Americans and the fact that they were completely displaced, and decimated and persecuted,
Yeah.
and still remain today a sub. What's the word? Like a sub, not subaltern, but like they remain. Um, Sorry, so it's the lemsip. I'm going to blame the
Well, I
lemsip.
might also say when I gave you 30-second elevator pitch, you might have gone over your
Did
30
you say
seconds.
30-second elevator?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, my bad. Well, the elevator got stuck between floors. But anyway, all right. I'll wrap up my thought. But this, not to disregard the Native American people of the US, but a huge part of the US modern society is immigration. Apart from the Native American people, all other Americans are immigrants. And so a celebration of that, particularly a celebration of Latin America, because America is, of course, part of the Americas. And I found that really moving, and made me feel warm and fuzzy. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was very powerful at a time where people who don't speak English as possibly a first language are being demonized and targeted and imprisoned and deported and murdered
Hmm.
and oppressed. And I mean, obviously, that's gone on for a long time, but there's a hyper version of that going on at the moment. It was very
Hmm.
powerful to see on the biggest stage in the US somebody being joyful about that. And
Yes.
apart from Lady Gaga and a few words by Bad Bunny, the entire thing was delivered in Spanish. Even the titles,
Yeah.
the title they called it like Super Tazon, and they had his full name like Benito. What's his name?
Benito, something, Ocasio.
Antonio Martinez
Ocasio.
Ocasio. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also like the representation of not only the celebration of Puerto Rican culture and Latino culture, but the even the harsh reality of it done in a joyous way. Like
Hmm.
it was like a diorama come to life, how to explain to people like the history or reality of Puerto Rico, like starting in the sugarcane fields, which is obviously really symbolic. Um, uh, to talk about colonialism and slavery, and then also even after slavery, the sugarcane fields were used by multinational corporations to come in and take all of the resources and leave people impoverished while taking all of the money
Hmm.
out of Puerto Rico, and the street culture and the of Puerto Rico, showing like the street traders and the vendors and people partying and I found it really powerful when the dancers were up the power electric poles,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and because obviously there's been a lot of issues around poor power and infrastructure in
Hmm.
Puerto Rico,
Hmm.
especially after Maria, the Hurricane Maria,
Hmm.
and how Puerto Rico was out without power for about a year, I think, wasn't it? And then they also have rolling blackouts and power
Yeah.
outages, and and so there were so many powerful bits of symbolism throughout it,
Mhm. Mhm.
even right down to the flag that Bad Bunny had the lighter color of blue on it instead of the dark blue. And that was a flag that was outlawed and people were
Mhm.
persecuted for using. And Lady Gaga's dress was that same color of that
Mhm.
azul clarito, or whatever they call it, the light blue. How would you
Mhm.
say
Mhm.
light blue in Spanish?
Azul.
Cla-
Yeah. How would you say it?
clarito?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and even also things like women dancing and the way that like black and brown women and the dancing and the cultural expressions of women are demonized by
Mhm.
white people. And so
Mhm.
to show women dancing as a celebration
Mhm.
and an
Yeah.
empowering
It was a
celebration.
it was a very celebratory vibe, the entire thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
And
loved the male dancers dancing with each other and like grinding up
yep.
on each other as well. Like I
Yeah.
thought it was a really beautifully put together, choreographed performance. Even
Yeah.
though I wouldn't necessarily listen to Bad Bunny's music, but I just thought as a performance, it was a really wonderful one.
And
Um,
he isn't the strongest vocalist. Like Hill listens to Bad Bunny a lot, and I have heard a lot of his music, and we've watched a lot of his live performances. He's never really that strong a vocalist, even when he's rapping.
mm,
But he also sings. He just isn't that strong, but it's not about that. Like it's about
no, no.
presenting. The like if you are interested in getting a bit more emotional about it, if you watch some reaction videos on YouTube
Mm,
of
mm,
different Latino families watching it and how they react and what it
mm,
means to them, like people crying and, getting goosebumps and like being so overwhelmed with pride. Because you think if you're from like Bolivia or Guatemala, all you ever see in the mainstream media in the USA is that you are subhuman or your country doesn't matter or you're criminals, and having someone stand on the biggest platform with hundreds of
mm,
millions of people watching it and you give a shout out to your country and you see your flag and you see
mm,
your culture being represented in a positive light, it's really
mm,
emotional. One of the things that a lot of Latino viewers, and Hill, my husband, for people who are new, is from Mexico. One thing that really made him emotional and excited was the scene where just after Lady Gaga sang and they started dancing and singing on the top of that building, and
mm,
it was like a wedding party, and it looked like all ages and demographics dancing, all dressed in white at the wedding, and there was a little child asleep on the chair,
mhm,
and a Bad Bunny goes over and wakes him up and says, "Come on, it's time to dance." And Hill was saying to me, "You don't understand how Latino that is. That because the parties go until like 6 a.m., 8 a.m. The family
mm,
parties, and the
mhm,
kids are just sleeping all around the party. Like it's not even a joke. It's just the reality that everybody knows. You go to a party, there, all the chairs are reserved for the kids to sleep on because the party
okay.
goes so late, and and it was like a real like moving nod to the culture that is like not just Puerto Rican, but it's all across Latin America. That is something that is so ubiquitous, and
Mm.
and Hill said it was very moving. I mean, he like cried multiple times watching it, and
Well, I sobbed during it, and it's funny. I think I already told you the story, but before I'd had a chance to watch it, I spoke to somebody about it in the US, and they said to me, "Oh, there's this amazing bit where he gives his Grammy to
mhm.
that kid who was in ICE detention for about like 3 months or something. Like he got him to the Super Bowl and like gave him his Grammy, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. So I watched the thing, watched the halftime show, saw that bit, burst out crying because I was like, that poor fucking little traumatized kid, like fucking hell, it was so
That
heart
kid doesn't
wrenching.
look like anything like Liam.
Well, anyway, and then I was like reading some BBC article. It was like, that's not true. That's like some rumor that everyone's talking about. But no, that's some actor.
Yeah,
That kid is just some actor. So I felt a bit bit duped by that. But it was a real wedding taking place there
Yes.
in
Yeah.
the stadium in the halftime show, which was pretty impressive. I loved, of course, Lady Gaga's unexpected
Mm.
cameo. We did talk about it in last week's show about the possibility of it, and it came to be.
But
And I loved.
her voice is like, I mean, talking about Benito, Bad Bunny, not being the greatest. When Lady Gaga started singing, it was like a
Mm,
whole other level of vocal performance. It was
yeah,
so unbelievably good.
yeah.
What did you
But
think though
I
about
loved
her?
also. But I just sort of want to quickly mention I love seeing like Pedro Pascal just randomly dancing
Uh,
on the front porch and stuff.
and
It was like
Cardi and
Cardi B, yeah,
Carol
yeah,
G and
very
yeah,
funny.
but like a lot of feedback that I've seen from, and this doesn't speak for all Latino people because I mean that would be impossible, but
Hmm.
the vast majority of people I've seen talk about Lady Gaga being there has been overwhelmingly positive. Like all the reaction videos, people are screaming and crying when she comes on, and that they talk of it meaning so much that this sort of kind superstar who is sort of the pinnacle of, I suppose, white elitism in the USA, adapted her performance to fit culturally and came at the invitation of Bad Bunny and did the biggest English language song of all time and turned it into a salsa song
Mm,
and then just sort of slipped out again. And, he is a massive Lady Gaga fan and it would have meant so much to him to have her there at the biggest night of his career,
mm.
the biggest day of his career. What did you think about her being there? Like, as any
I
symbolism attached to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if they're friends exactly, but I think they have a mutual appreciation and respect for each other, and I think that's probably to a large extent why she did the performance, the cameo
Yeah.
performance there. I Yeah, I think she's done the halftime show herself, so um, she knows the ropes and she knows what a big deal it is. And yeah, I think it is a a nice gesture of her to step in like that. But I don't know. I think even without her being there, it still would have been an incredible show.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but maybe because, like you say, he's not the strongest singer. Maybe it did need somebody to just sort of lift it into that more sort of vocal performative um, mode.
I mean, even poor Ricky Martin wasn't the strongest, was he, on the
Hmm.
microphone when he came on? It was very touching for him to be there and singing the song about that Bad Bunny song about the lyric is, to paraphrase it, something about I hope they don't do to us what they did to Hawaii.
Hmm.
It's like a
Hmm.
very moving song about colonialism
Hmm.
and the oppression of people. So, but yeah, he wasn't the strongest. So having Gaga on that stage, it was a different form of expression, but vocally it was
Hmm.
so many levels above what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was wonderful. And imagine like being that couple that got married, like having Lady Gaga as your wedding singer and, you know, Bad Bunny like dancing around you. And oh, it would have been so amazing.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I thought it was nice, but I have no idea what teams played. I actually couldn't tell you. The only thing I know is he said San Francisco in the show. He
Hmm.
yelled out San Francisco, so I assume they were in the Bay Area. And so it must have been a team from the Bay Area. That's all I know. I don't know who the other team was, who the first team was. I
Well,
don't know who.
I thought it was the Philadelphia Eagles or one of the teams,
I have no
but
idea.
I don't know.
I didn't see
I,
any of the game.
I don't. I know nothing about sports, so I have no interest in it either. I could not care less about the
And,
sporting
and
aspect of it.
and do you think that you would ever listen to Bad Bunny outside of that? After seeing that performance, out of interest even, would you sit down and listen to a record or?
Mm, probably not. I mean, to be honest, I mean, if there was a Like if he did a like an MTV Unplugged style thing, or a really
Well,
like stripped back what?
there is a Bad Bunny Tiny Desk concert that you could
Oh,
watch,
okay. Well, that I would probably watch. Yeah,
but
yeah.
once again, he is not the strongest vocalist. So
Okay.
it is nice, and his band is.
Shady,
I mean, I
shady.
feel really bad saying it because I do think he is a wonderful artist. I don't think you have to be a technically good singer to be a good artist. Like, look at Madonna, right? Like, for many decades, she was at the pinnacle of pop culture, and she's revered as like an international pop icon. But no one would ever say that she was the most gifted vocalist.
Careful, Sue. You'll have all the Madonna stands coming after you again. Was it
Oh,
2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago? They came out in
yeah.
force in the comments.
I've got everyone coming after me. I've gotten a fight with Bob the Drag Queen and Monet Exchange.
What,
'Cause
directly with them?
yes, because I'm a member of their Patreon. And
Hmm.
so Bob the Drag Queen and Monet Exchange became famous drag performers for being on RuPaul's Drag Race. And they do weekly podcasts together. And I'm in their family Patreon thing where I pay money and they did an interview on their channel with one of the if you're familiar at all with Drag Race, they have these men who just wear Speedos and they're called the pit crew. And they walk on when they have to like deliver something to RuPaul or, they're these like hot, muscly dudes. And one of them, his name's Bruno. They had Bruno on as a guest. And the entire episode, they just talked about what he looked like. They were objectifying him, talking about sexiness. He's Brazilian, so they were being gross about like Brazilians being hot. And he was trying to talk about other things that he does apart from just being a silent model on this TV show where he's objectified. So I
You mean he
wrote,
dared to be a real human?
yeah, well, I wrote under it, this is fucking disgusting. Like, this is the worst episode. Poor Bruno having to put up with this bullshit, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, not only did the fans come for me, but then Bob came for me and was like, "Oh, how disgusting, fat gay vegan having to put up with this." Blah, blah. I don't know, all going on and on at me. So that went on for a while. I apologized for using aggressive language. Like I didn't apologize for having the feelings about the objectification of Bruno. We don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about Bruno, but I didn't apologize for speaking up, but I apologize for in a safe space, which is a Patreon where we're all meant to be respectful, that I used aggressive language. But then
Mm-hmm.
I've now also got Trixie Mattel fans coming after me because I wrote a blog post after seeing a video. Trixie Mattel, another world famous drag queen who found fame through
Are you
RuPaul's Drag
anti-drag?
Race.
Are you dragging drag?
Uh-huh. Well, Brian, the actor. Is he an actor? Is that what you do? You are a drag performer?
Performer.
Out
Yeah.
of drag is named Brian, and Brian made a video where he said, "I love birds. I'm going to get birds," and has had birds in the past, and is going to get a big cage for his backyard in Hollywood and put birds in it. And I wrote a blog post saying, "Well, this is kind of, I love Trixie. Like I've seen Trixie live. I listened to podcasts. I've bought merchandise. We've talked about Trixie on here before. You're what didn't you buy something from the motel?
God, no.
Oh,
Fucking hell, it's so expensive. Yeah,
how's
this is also
how's she
from,
gonna pay for the bird seed, Sue, if you
well,
don't?
so 55 fucking dollars for a trucker cap. No, thank you. Plus tax.
So anyway, all these fans are turning on me because I wrote a blog post about why Trixie shouldn't get birds and keep them in cages. And I
Mm.
said most birds that are kept as pets that come from like the exotic pet trade,
Hmm.
which is exploitative of animals. And I'm like,
And even if
this
they
isn't.
don't, like, don't have a bird in a cage anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, people
Like,
are
if you
like,
want a
oh,
bird, like, rescue a fucking bird
or
and
don't
build it.
even fucking
Or,
rescue a bird. Like, just say you like birds and watch bird documentaries. Like, why do you have to have a bird within fucking 10 feet of you? But
mm,
so anyway, people are saying, oh, this is taking parasocial relationships too far. You're trying to tell Trixie what she can and can't do in her own backyard, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, look, this was very kind and a compassionately written blog post where I said, I love Trixie, but it's okay for me to say, I don't think somebody should have birds. So anyway, I'm fighting with drag queens, drag queen fans, drag race fans, everybody. And it's
So
given me I don't know, stressing me out a bit. But anyway,
you might
that's
start shedding some feathers from the stress of it, Sue.
I am. I'm about to start like pecking at myself, pecking at my rear end. Um,
Oh.
Talking about mental health and being under duress and stress.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot on this podcast about having, I suppose, disordered relationships with food and eating, and we've
We
talked
have.
about Manjaro, tirzepatide, the drug. So, as part of my ongoing journey with self care and try to look after myself. Like I've come off Manjaro because I couldn't afford it anymore. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for other tools to help me feel in control of my compulsive eating. And you very kindly helped me find a list of locations for meetings for OA, which stands for Overeaters Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And
Not to
I
be
mean,
confused with the was it Netflix drama series, The OA?
yeah, the original Angel, was that what it stood for?
I don't know if anyone ever found out. I don't think anyone ever found out anything in that show. It was like Lost in that each
Well, they also
series would just
cancelled it before anything could be resolved because
yeah.
nobody
Anyway,
cared about it. It was pretty
tangent.
crummy show, wasn't it?
It was kind of interesting at points. Anyway,
So,
let's not
what do you
digress
what do you know about O OA,
about the
like, as
OA.
an organization?
Overeaters Anonymous is a worldwide organization and it functions in much the same way as Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous do. There are meetings and different chapters. I don't know if that's the right terminology or not.
Mhm.
And they operate under a similar sort of approach in that and I didn't really know this before I recommended it, otherwise I may not have recommended it, but they operate under this sort of premise that you're answerable to a higher power.
Yes.
And I know several people who are alcoholics and have said that they don't like the AA meetings for that reason because they're not religious, they don't necessarily believe in a God, and they don't like the idea of sort of being answerable to somebody outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And I believe that was your
Yeah, well,
experience.
I went along to a meeting in Soho, and, like, I would preface this by saying I don't feel like I'm currently in crisis, where at times in my life I have. I've gone into therapy at times where I had a really heightened, extreme version of, anxiety and depression, or like in the throes of like addiction with food. But I'm doing this. I'm trying to approach this sort of preemptively, like, or as an ongoing approach to care. And so I
Mm,
went along just kind of like, okay, I've got nothing to lose, right? Like, this isn't like, I'm not at the end of my rope here. This is like, I'm going to go along. First of all, I went into this room where it was like a lot of people, a lot more people than I imagined there would be. And somebody sat next to me, and as the meeting was sort of milling around, getting together, and somebody said to me, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so," and I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Sean." And they said, "Oh, is this you've been coming here a while?" And I said, "No, this is my first meeting." I said, "There's a lot more people than I thought there would be." And then they looked at me. They were just looking at me a bit weird, and I looked around and I went, "What is this meeting for?" And they said, "It's AA." And I said, "Oh, I'm I'm here because I eat too much." Like, what? Like, I stopped drinking a while ago. Where do I go for the And they said, "Oh, it's in another room around the hallway. Like, it's around the corner." And so I
mm.
went in there, and it was a lot smaller, the group. And I'm sure I'm not meant to talk too much about the group. I suppose that's how it operates, right?
Probably, yeah. You're probably not supposed to talk about it at all, but you can talk about your
Well,
experience.
yeah, I can't tell you like what other people were doing there, but um,
A
yeah, they were
popular drag
like,
queen was in there.
yeah, yeah. This giant bird with its feathers missing, like wearing a Trixie t-shirt,
Trixie was there with a feather boa on.
beating a bird. Um, and so I walked in, and they started like doing these sort of ritualistic things, like people had to take turns reading out, I suppose, the rules of the group, or there was like a welcome prayer, and there were rules on the wall, and the different steps and stages. And I mean, this isn't secret. I'm not spilling like the final step of going clear with Scientology or something. This
Mm-hmm.
is like known to people. It's very religious, and there's references to capital HE, like he, through it. And we had to do like a 10-minute meditation at the beginning, and I don't meditate, and I'm not against meditation, but I don't do it. So for my first time in a room with strangers in this sort of situation, it did feel a little bit overwhelming, but I can see the value in meditation for people.
Mm-hmm.
But when we all had to sort of go around and were encouraged to speak, I said, I'm really grateful that this space exists and it helps people, but I just need to be clear that I don't think I would come back here again because of the religious element of it or the spiritual element of it. And afterwards, people spoke to me and said, "Oh, but God means whatever you want it to mean. You have to find what it means to you." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Yeah, but the concept of God to me is not something that I want to anchor my wellness to.
Mm.
Like, I don't want that, you know?"
And even
I,
if even if it is up to your own interpretation, well then find a way of wording it so that it's not referring to he, capital HIM. Like
yeah.
why does it have to be that in the text? Like can't they
Yeah.
come up with a better, a more universal phrasing that is just more inclusive?
Yeah, and it was all through it. And also, I just thought I could go somewhere and chat with people and be social and
Mm,
be, communicative and supportive
mm-hmm,
and get supported. I didn't want there to be, maybe some people need that hard line structure.
mm,
Maybe their addiction manifests in a different way, or their compulsiveness manifests in a way that suits them. But
mm.
it made me feel actually quite awful to be
I would,
there.
but
And
I would say there's probably a huge portion of society who would welcome something that was completely non-religious. Um, I
yeah,
think a lot of these things are the way they are because they hark back to an era where society was much more religious. And, when I talk about that, I'm talking about in Western society, it's much more sort of Judeo-Christian societies. And that's just not the case anymore. So I think these organizations, I think they have to change, they have to adapt and move with the times. But
yeah.
I don't know, maybe they
Well,
won't. Maybe other organizations will have to take their place. Maybe you need to spearhead a new sort of, I don't know. Also, Overeaters, even the name of it is a bit problematic. I think Overeaters Anonymous, like
like
it,
fat fighters.
like you're overdoing something. You're already bad. Like it's a constitutive label, isn't it? Whereas
Yeah,
Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, it's naming the substance as the problem. Whereas Overeater, well, that's you're doing
that's
that.
me.
You're the
Yeah,
problem. Um,
yeah.
I think they need to come up with a better terminology. But I think the same thing about just church in general. Like I would love to go to church and like sing songs and have like deep philosophical readings and discussions maybe, but I don't want any of the religious aspects of
Well,
it.
you could go to things like humanist groups and,
Yeah.
like Conway Hall, just near your
Yeah.
old work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like humanist meetings, and they'll get up and they'll have special guest speakers.
Yeah.
I don't know. You start organizing stuff though, especially in intellectual circles, and it can be really white, middle-aged male led, and it's really problematic, I find. And you
Mm.
get people like that end up being like, I don't know, friends with Jeffrey Epstein or something, like fucking Noam Chomsky or something like,
Yep.
you know, or like, what's his name, Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Yeah.
Richard Dawkins, like people who end up being like how men are and like abuse power and
Well, yeah,
stuff.
because
And
they'll have like a lot of people in the world, they'll have something interesting to say, so they get celebrated for that, and then they turn out to be fucking
Yeah.
pedophile adjacent or whatever,
Yeah, or like just controllers or abusers.
or just like
Um,
plain flat out racist transphobes or something.
and so I left that meeting not sad, but I don't know, no worse off than I went in there really. What I did know was that I was grateful that I went and I knew that it wasn't for me.
yeah,
it was an
yeah,
experience that I'm not sad that I had, like I'm kind of like interested in what went on in that room. Like it was interesting for me to go, but yeah, I wouldn't go there. But I was mentioning this to my sister Michelle, and she recommended a podcast for me to listen to because I don't know if this is too much information for the pod, but a lot of my issues stem from childhood trauma and PTSD, complex PTSD related to childhood trauma. And Michelle recommended a um, a podcast to me by Patrick Tian, and I forget the name of it. Is it our whole childhood? Is that what it's called?
I think so. I'm just gonna
Oh,
do some live research because I
and
also listen to it.
yeah, and so I
Um,
listened, and so thank you to Michelle for recommending it to me because I have listened to a few episodes, and I find it helpful. But once again, it's a little bit at the end, especially of each episode. It's a little bit verging on woo,
mhm.
and sort of like that. De- how do you say like deifying or like
Yeah,
holding somebody up
deifying.
as deifying, holding
Yeah,
someone up, and he says, I wish you warmth, happiness, light, whatever. I find some
the
of
healing childhood trauma podcast. Is that it?
oh, okay. Is that what it's
Is
called?
that what it's called? I think
Is that
so.
the
Hang on.
title of it?
Is this the one I listened to? I'm pretty sure it is.
So anyway, the
Oh no, maybe
I
not.
find it
No, no, it's not that one. That's another one. Where is it? I can't find it now. I'll find the link and I'll
okay.
put it in the
Well,
podcast notes. But
if people search for Patrick Tian, which is Teahan, I I find it helpful and interesting. Like it gives me tools to process my thinking, and I listen to him explain different ways that childhood trauma manifest in our adulthood. But one of the most fascinating episodes, and I know you listened to it as well, was where Patrick talked about a concept called limerence. Did you want to explain what limerence is to people if they might not be familiar with it?
so yeah, limerence. What's that? Limerence, I think.
Yep.
It's an unhealthy, obsessive approach to love, romance, attraction, that is particularly common in people who've experienced childhood trauma, not exclusively, but in people who have had um, traumatic relationships with parents, particularly, but just in general, they are much more prone to this limerent way of thinking and experiencing the world. And it manifests typically in extreme emotional um, connection, or in some cases, imagined or magical thinking around romance and love and attraction, and just forming very unhealthy, unrealistic uh, attachments to people when that feeling is not, almost always not reciprocated.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of like a fantastical version of codependence, like a like
mhm,
a like a magic realism version of codependence, where you
mhm.
put so much importance on something that is not reciprocated, and it becomes your personality or part of your personality. Why did you find it so? I suppose first of all enlightening, but also upsetting. You told me.
Well, because I recognized so much of myself in the things he was describing, and I found
Yeah.
that, because you go through life, and I've done a lot of therapy around childhood traumas, and I have overcome a lot through therapy and with medication and everything. But then sometimes there's just something like that will come along and you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm still so affected by things. Like I'll never throw off that baggage it just in many ways. And just hearing his description of limerence, um, it just I just thought, oh God, that's me. That's my whole life, my entire life.
Yeah.
And also I
And once
thought,
you go.
well, I was just going to say, like, I also, and this is something I was already aware of. Like, it's something I noticed, I don't know, a year or so ago. But so many of my songs, and it's not like I have a huge back catalogue of songs, but so many of my songs, when I have to look back and, because I have to write the lyrics down because I forget them because my memory is so bad. But
Yeah.
so many of my songs, like subconsciously, that limerence comes through. But so many of them
Yeah.
talk about, um, someone by my side. Like I literally have a song called By My Side. But it's across loads of other songs of mine as well. And there are so many
Yeah.
lyrics in my songs where I talk about having a place where I belong, wanting to find somewhere where I belong. And that
Yeah.
all is so, he basically described all of that. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah, well,
what was,
it's really driven for most people by feeling abandoned, by having, like, suffering sort of mistreatment at the hands of
mm,
parents or carers, and
hmm
it's looking for to, sort of, I suppose, like, fix yourself by attaching yourself to other people's and other situations. Now, for me, unfortunately, when I was a child and I went through all of that, as I started to go into my tweens, my liverance, it was more dangerous for me because I would be then exploited by older men who, wanted to be with a young person either sexually or emotionally or whatever they thought was going on. And
mm,
because I had that limerence driver in me, I was I would put all of my thinking about, self protection or um, being close to someone making me feel special or validation into these people that would exploit me and take advantage of me and often abuse me. And that's what
mm,
happens to so many young people who come out of abusive situations. They're so vulnerable and, ripe for the picking
mm,
that they then attach themselves and they think they're finding ways to feel special
mm.
by being involved with people. Another thing that I just saw on the news today, I think it was on the BBC, was this whole idea of limerence takes a really dark turn when you put AI into the mix, and you see people starting to develop relationships or what they imagine are
Oh
relationships
yeah,
with
with an AI
AI
chat.
generated
Yeah.
things talking to them. And this woman said that the AI model that she's using to currently have a relationship with is being shut down, and she's
Mm,
doesn't know what she's going to do. And
mm,
everyone in her life knows that she believes she's in a relationship with this she's given it a name, and she
yeah.
asks it to, like, what she should do. She asks it for advice. She asks it to say comforting things to her. And
Mhm,
so we're talking about, for you and me, limerence with real people, even though the relationships might not be real. We
mhm,
imagine them to be. Imagine then taking it to the next level where you've got
mm,
you're having that sort of that limerence or a limerent relationship with something
yeah.
that doesn't even exist at all.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level. We need to form a Limerence Anonymous support group. But the other thing, going back to just quickly just back to my music, when I was listening to the episode, I thought if anyone, I don't know if any of our viewers have, but if you've ever seen me play live, my shtick, my kind of running joke is that most of my songs are about falling in love with unavailable men. And that
And
is
too and
another
too
extent.
quickly, too
And to,
quickly.
oh yeah, like from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And that's a really classic sign of limerent behavior, limerent attachment. And it just, yeah, made me very sad to think. I mean, it's on one hand, it's like, well, you know what? Even if I have this ridiculous, unrealistic attachment style, um, I don't know, like maybe in some ways you can use that, turn your burden into your gift and all that shit. But
Well, it's
like,
also it's also a survival tactic, isn't it? It's like our brains and our damaged psyches and it's trying to find ways to feel safe and secure and loved. And so it's about recognizing it, and in your case, maybe turning it into art, or for other people, just recognizing it and speaking it out loud like we're doing now, and not letting it control us and not letting us
Well,
run
yeah,
us
and
into the
also when
ground.
you're in the throes of it, I suppose it helps to know that, okay, it's not, you are experiencing a known phenomenon that can be explained, and the reasons behind it are X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and maybe that will help. I know we're running out of time, but
Yes,
yeah,
we
that's
help.
speaking of the open mic this Sunday at the Cock Tavern in Kennington from 5:30 p.m. I'll be there singing songs about falling in love with unavailable men and wanting a place where I could feel belonged. So yeah.
And I'll be behind the DJ booth playing music and trying to convince myself that I'm not hungry.
Yeah, so go to
I'm not hungry. I'm just sad.
praying to Trixie Mattel's Caged Birds. And if you want to find out more, go to joshandjumpstarts.com or look for Josh and Jumpstarts on Instagram. Anything else you need to mention, Sean, to wrap up quickly?
No, just please don't put birds in cages. And if I express my feelings online about birds in cages, please don't come for me.
Okay. Thank you to our new subscribers as well. Please hit subscribe if you're not already doing so. And we will be back in your feeds this time next week. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going back to my Lemsip and steroid nasal sprays now.
Well, I hope you feel better. And thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Theatre. Bye-bye.